A very warm welcome to you to Markets Today. I'm your host, Mbithe Mwema. It continues to be a rather chilly day in Nairobi, the capital center of Nairobi. And it looks like this chilliness and this cold weather is actually affecting sentiment on the Nairobi Securities Exchange. I'll be giving you an overview of what happened yesterday, what's currently happening today. But when we go into the break, I have so much lined up for you. Now, the key thing we're looking out for today is this. When you look at technology, at least from a global standpoint, there has been a huge appropriation of value for investors and stakeholders in the technology space, at least from a global standpoint. Now, we want to look at the Kenyan perspective. What is happening here? I have two special guests lined up for you. I'll give you an overview of who they are and what to expect later on in the show. But for now, let's take a look at what was happening on the Nairobi Securities Exchange. We have our graphics team putting up the indices for us there so we can see. Turnover was actually down on a day-to-day basis, about 64 percentage points lower yesterday, which was Tuesday, compared to Monday. Not too much happening there. Let's take a look at the NSE indices. You can see there was a downward trajectory, again, largely driven by a minor pullback on the price of Safaricom. Safaricom had touched a high of 30 shillings per share. We were seeing a lot of foreigners chasing and putting demand and bids for this particular stock. By yesterday, then demand and supply was negligible. Same case today. Today, just before we came to the show, it had only traded about 1 million shares over the day. So not too much happening there. Safaricom has a material weighting when it comes to the NSE indices, and it's also a material mover when it comes to movements. If you watched out yesterday, the NSE in the month of August, we saw Safaricom trade over 58% in terms of the turnover. So when Safaricom sneezes, there's certainly an impact on each and every other thing that happens. So the NSE indices there, this is data provided to us by our Harvest team, which is part of the Metropole Group. We did see the NSE all share down almost 2 percentage points to 137. NSE 20 and NSE 25 also followed a similar trajectory. Let's have a look at the next slide just to get a sense of what was happening on the top movers. Safaricom, 12.9 million shares, KCB 1.8, but I think the data we're looking at is for Monday. Maybe let's go to the next chart and see what was happening there. We can look at the top gainers. All right, Stanley Fahari, so we have our list of top gainers there. Then we also have our list of the top losers over the day. So as I have said, it's a bit of a chilly time in Nairobi, and this chilliness and the cold weather is having an impact on the NSE. Turnover was down 65% yesterday, muted activity, nothing much happening. Same case today, slightly over 1 million shares have traded in Safaricom, about 500,000 shares have traded in KCB. All these shares are trading range bound. Safaricom about the 29 shilling mark. KCB, 36 shilling mark. Equity, we have seen a bit of downside recovery with profit taking. Some sellers who got in at 28.75 have been taking profit on this particular stock, and we've seen it come back down to about 35.05 shillings per share. And this is coming from a high of 36 shillings per share. What's happening lower at the lower end of the market? Now, NMG has been a key mover, gaining almost 10% on a day-to-day basis from the end of last week up until yesterday. It has hit a high of 19.55, is straddling at the 20 shilling mark, and we have seen a bit of profit taking, not too much activity on this particular stock, but it's still one of the top gainers for the day. What else are we seeing there? Not too much happening on Kenya Power. We did announce the Kenya Power results. They reported a profit of 262, which was considerably lower than the profits that they reported in the last year. We've seen the price come from a high of 1.9, and it's now at about 1.8 to 1.85, 1.8 shillings per share. Not too much volume is going there, in as much as we had seen a lot of volume go through this particular stock in the previous week. Kenya Re, another one that we also keep hearing you asking about. Again, muted activity there. Another one, Wpp Scan Group, not too much happening. It looks like it's tapering off at the 8.5 shilling mark. We're waiting to see if there'll be continued demand. In terms of a psychological level of pricing, we are looking at the 13 shilling mark. The 13 shilling mark is sort of a price point for the investors that came in just before the dividend closure date. Now, when the special dividend was announced, we saw this price rally all the way to 25 shillings per share, and it settled at 20 shillings per share before the record date of this particular dividend issuance. So these investors who got in there, they are looking at a price point of 13 shillings to at the very least break even, considering the dividend they have been paid out to. So we see a bit of weakness at 8.5, but it could go back up. But if you see it going at about 10, 11, then maybe that's a point to exit, because at 13 shilling for sure, we will see a lot of supply coming into the market. Clearly, as you can see, it's a cold day on the market, not too much happening in activity. It's also a cold day when it comes to corporate activity. Again, not too much happening. But you always know, for our team here at Markets Today, we never want to keep it cold. We always want to just keep pushing the boundaries. We want to be able to tell you what's happening on investments and also identify opportunities that are out there. We do this because investments happen to you in different ways. You can either be a passive investor, which is what we show you through the Nairobi Securities Exchange, or the opportunities that we show you in the fixed income or the money markets or the derivative markets. There's also an opportunity for being an active investor in terms of understanding what are the trends in the different sectors and how can you be empowered with the right information, the right snippets, so that you can tap into these opportunities. Well, today is the day. It's Wednesday. They call it's ladies' night. We call it's a ladies' afternoon. I have a team of ladies, very powerful and impactful ladies with us here in the studio. Today, we are talking about Women in Business, which is a platform that has been presented to the market by Safaricom. It's all about empowering women and enhancing the procurement spend that is allocated to women. This Women in Business has actually been pushing to get women allocated 10% of the procurement budget of Safaricom. If you have been following us and looking at Safaricom numbers, when we are looking at procurement, we want to equate it to the capital expenditure that this company incurs, at least use that as a guide. In the last year, the company spent about 30 to 32 billion shillings on capital expenditure alone. This doesn't cover the operational expenditure. It's just to show you that if you're going to be 10% of this particular spending by this company, and if you're going to be part of the Women in Business, then there's an opportunity for you to be an active investor in your business, to be part and parcel of this community that's empowering women, and to see what are the notable opportunities that are out there. To help us in this conversation and to bring this conversation to you, we are joined by Florence Kiburi. She is part of the Women in Business Safaricom team. When we go on break, we will be speaking to her so that she can enlighten us. How can we be empowered? But no, don't go anywhere if you're a man. It's not only about empowering women, because when you're being empowered, somebody's telling you, this is what we are doing, these are the opportunities that we see, and they're talking to us from their standpoint and the interactions in the networks that you have. So listen to it. It could help you, it could help a sister, it could help another lady around you, but we try to get into a conversation to see what are the opportunities out there when you're using technology or not technology, and how can you be part and parcel of this conversation. After that, we also have another special guest who's lined up for you. Christine, who is the CEO of Spectrum Engineering, is a very exciting person to meet. She's a lady, she's running an engineering firm, she's in a space and making a huge impact in a space that has been dominated by the men. So it's very interesting just to hear what is her story, how did she get there, and more importantly, how has the impact of being part of the Women in Business community at Safaricom empowered her and helped her to be in this space and to be able to thrive in this space. I hope you have your pens and papers ready, but if you don't, I also hope that you have your phones ready, because if you do, this is what I want you to do. 20146, that's our SMS line. Ask Mbithe. You know, I'm here for you. What do you want to know? Is it about the markets? They are quiet. Is it about what we are going to be discussing today with Florence as well as with Christine? Anything that you want to know. If not, take your phone out, social media platforms, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Mbithe Mwema, as easy as that. You can spell it the way you want to spell it. Just put Mbithe Mwema, you'll find me. If you can't find me, Metropole TV, that's the other site that you want to go out for. Put all your questions there, your comments. Where are you watching from? Say hello to me. Nisalimie, kuna baridi sana. So I want to hear, how are you coping with this cold weather? And I want to hear your voice as we are having this conversation so that we can be able to bring your questions, your comments, and ensure that they are answered. We take a brief break. When we come back, we will be with Florence talking to us about women in business in Safaricom and how this has worked to enhance economic empowerment for women in this economy. See you after the break.